In a bizarre joint interview with Sean Hannity that aired Tuesday night on Fox News, President Donald Trump and Elon Musk claimed that the inflation rate that is currently increasing is actually somebody else's fault.
The massive waste, fraud, and abuse that has been going on, which is leading to a $2 trillion a year deficit. That's what the president was handed on Jan 20th, a $2 trillion deficit. It's insane.
For this fiscal year.
Yeah, we inherited.
Yeah.
And inflation is back. I'm only here for 2.5 weeks.
That was January.
Inflation
You were there
is
for a
back.
week.
Now think of it. Inflation's back, and they said, "Oh, Trump inflation." I had nothing to do with it. These people have run the country. They spent money like nobody's ever spent. They were given $9 trillion to throw out the window. $9 trillion. And they spent it on the Green New scam, I call it. It's the greatest scam in the history of the country. One of them. We have a lot of them, I guess, but one of them.
And believe me, I know scams. I run the greatest scams, the best scams. Oh, oops. But okay, look, I know, Green New scam, right? Except there is no such thing. But hey, look, the inflation, man, it's back, but it's not my fault. I didn't do anything wrong. Well, on that point, he's actually kind of right. Consumer prices did rise much more than expected in January, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, largely because of things like, I don't know, surging fuel and egg prices. Okay, which marked, by the way, the biggest monthly increase since August of 2023. Prices were 3% higher year over year for the first time since June of 2024. So, yeah, things are getting more expensive. Inflation is up. That said, the president does not control egg prices or gas prices. I mean, George W. Bush had famously or infamously said in one of his press conferences way back in the day, "I wish I had a wand that said no gas, but I don't have it. I don't have it." Yeah, yeah. He didn't have a wand. Biden didn't have a wand, and neither did Donald Trump. Okay, so no, they can't control the gas prices or the egg prices, not directly. Okay, the whole idea that he is a that the president is like a king that sets all the prices, kind of anti-American actually, but not at all rooted in reality. Okay, that said, speaking of not rooted in reality, is his contention that, oh, we spent all this money, Biden spent all this money on the Green New scam. That's what did it. That's why we wasted all the money. You know what that is? Bullshit. Total. The Green New Deal or anything like it never actually passed, so it was never into law. They never did anything like that. Now, that said, obviously, Biden did add to the debt by signing an infrastructure bill, which included some green energy projects, as well as COVID relief. Okay, so yes, that is something that added to the deficit, about $5 trillion in his first 2 years, according to the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. Now, that said, one of the things that Trump had immediately taken an axe to is the Inflation Reduction Act, which did actually save the government $240 billion due to increased tax enforcement, okay, where they're actually collecting taxes from rich people. And then, of course, the savings on prescription drugs that Trump also, reversed. Okay. And so, that was allowing Medicare to negotiate prescription drugs, which lowered the price of drugs, not only for people on Medicare, but also other people as well who need those drugs. So, okay. Yeah. Now, you want to talk about blowing a hole in the budget, though, right? Republicans are looking to do $4.5 trillion worth of tax cuts that will benefit primarily rich people. Okay, so yeah, that's also a bit of a problem. But hey, we're going to go forward with that. Okay, and I know Elon Musk claims that DOGE is going to find what $1 to $2 trillion worth of savings, so that they can convert that into tax cuts or whatever for the rich. But yeah, you're not going to be able to find that much savings. Okay. Now, that said, let's get back to inflation, right? Which Trump had promised to solve day one. oh man, day one, everything's gonna go down. The milk, eggs, bread, all that stuff, gas, it's all gonna go down. It's gonna go down. Day one. Turns out, oops, nope, that was a lie. Guy lied through his teeth, his pursed butthole mouth. Okay. No, here's the reality of inflation. Okay. A 2023 National Bureau of Economic Research report said that the price hikes were partly the result of government spending. Okay, so all the spending that I mentioned in the Biden administration, but also on factors including higher production costs linked to swings in demand, so supply and demand, the war in Ukraine, as well as COVID-era supply chain issues. Bureau of Labor Statistics, in a January 2023 report, also blamed inflation on the volatility of energy prices, linked to Ukraine, of course, backlogs of work orders for goods and services caused by supply chain issues due to COVID-19, and price changes in the auto-related industries. And then you had an International Monetary Fund study in September that said that the macroeconomic effects, like federal spending, weren't actually to blame at all. Instead, you just had simple supply and demand. But there's also another thing. And you can see that not everybody is agreeing with each other here on these things. But one of the big things, greedflation. Okay, the Groundwork Collaborative put out a study back in 2024 arguing that more than half of the consumer price increases in the middle of the previous year, in 2023, were actually a result of excessive corporate profits, which still remain at all-time highs. In fact, they wrote, corporate profits drove 53% of inflation during the second and third quarters of 2023, and more than one-third since the start of the pandemic. And this is according to just an analysis of Commerce Department data. All right. So, okay, the reality is that all this cost cutting that Musk is doing, he's talking about the debt. Oh, we got to reduce the debt. We're going to go bankrupt. We have the world's reserve currency. We actually technically cannot go bankrupt. Okay. Now we could do a lot of terrible effects if we allow the debt to get too massively high, right? And that's why maybe we should tax the rich more, and also do things that are actually cheaper, like Medicare for all, for example, that will actually cut costs in healthcare spending. I know, crazy, right? And allow Medicare to negotiate for all prescription drugs. That would save us a whole bunch of money. But anyway, no, all that stuff that he's doing right now is not going to help with the debt. It's not going to help with inflation either. Okay. No, what he's doing is he's increasing unemployment and getting rid of agencies that will, that are actually looking after consumers to ensure that these consumers are not getting screwed over by giant corporations like the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, getting rid of that actually helped claw back about $21 billion worth of ill-gotten gains, returning it to the taxpayer. Okay. So yeah, none of what he's doing is going to lower prices at all. Okay. And I hate to say it. Well, actually, I don't hate to say it because it's true. Tax cuts for the rich are not going to trickle down. I know. I guess the reason that I hate to say it is because it should be so obvious to everyone paying attention. Okay. They do not trickle down. They never trickle down. Okay. Oh, but you don't understand. It's going to be tons of economic growth if we just cut taxes on the rich one more time. Just one more time. That'll be the magic number, man. Lower that corporate rate to 15%. Then they'll finally trickle down. No, it'll never trickle down. What happens is their glass just gets bigger. That's it. So now this, of course, has Americans saying, hold on, wait, we elected Trump. Why are things getting worse for me economically? Things I thought they were supposed to get better. So let me give you the results of that poll. According to a new Reuters Ipsos poll, 44% of respondents approved of the job that Trump is doing as president, which is down from 45%. Okay, all right. So that's last month. So very, very minor drop. It's 1%. However, the share of Americans who are disapproving of his presidency has risen quite a bit more to 51% compared to 41% right after he took office. So it didn't take long, and immediately a massive increase of 10 points of disapproval. Ouch. And worse, the share of Americans who think the economy is now on the wrong track rose to 53%. That's another 10-point increase since the last poll that asked this question last month. Public approval of Trump's economic stewardship fell to 39% from 43% in the prior poll. So, oops, economically, everybody's thinking we're on the wrong track. And Trump is not doing a good job at all because, of course, you had the tariffs. You have continued inflation, which, again, I can't blame entirely on him, even though tariffs are like a tax that is going to affect average people. It is going to raise prices on a lot of things. And so, that's not going to be good. By the way, when it comes to inflation, specifically 32% of respondents approved of his performance on that issue. And then of the tariffs, it gets worse. 54% of respondents said they opposed the new tariffs on imported goods from other countries, while only 41% were in favor. All right. Now, mostly people liked the Chinese tariffs, 49% in favor, 47% against. It's currently a 10% increase on goods coming in from China. However, the other tariffs against Canada and Mexico, they're not nearly as popular. And if they do go into effect, of course, and you have price increases, that number is going to go way up. Or I should say, the number of people who disapprove going to go way up. His approval is going to go further down. Now, that is something that Donald Trump is going to have to own. He doesn't own the inflation, much like Biden didn't own the inflation that happened under him. Okay? You can't really blame him for that, but Donald Trump cannot blame Biden for this inflation either. Okay? Nor will he be able to blame the massive hole in the budget that his new tax cuts for the rich will, blow into the budget. Okay? Blow a giant hole. And that's going to create a lot of issues, along with the shredding of the social safety net that DOGE is currently in the process of doing. So, at the end of the day, while he doesn't, own this inflation, he will begin to own the other negative effects on our economy, and he'll own it real hard as things start to get much, much worse for us average people. A new example of the fuzzy math that Elon Musk's DOGE task force is using is calling into question some of their purported savings. According to independent congressional reporter Jamie Dupree, the DOGE team is finally posting examples of where they have cut spending. Oh, good. Now, this one claims, and I'm going to show you the example here. This one claims $8 billion in savings, bottom figure, but if you look at the fine print in the upper right, it is a contract that is instead valued at $8 million. The $8 million contract in question was to provide tech support for the Office of Diversity and Civil Rights and was over a 3-year period.
Whoopsie. Whoopsie.
I don't know if they know this, but there's quite a bit of a big difference between $8 million and $8 billion. Huge difference. Okay. Now, look, it's examples like this and others, which have a lot of people calling the supposed $55 billion in savings that they're claiming into question. This is according to their own website, right? And maybe it's because their website is real slow on the uptake, but currently the savings that they have only accounts for about $16.6 billion. And that's before factoring in the aforementioned error in the data published on DOGE's website about that $8 million contract that was mislabeled as $8 billion. And so really, when it comes down to it, those cuts only equal about $8.6 billion in savings. Okay? So, yeah, they're not really doing all that well, are they? Now, that said, they're not cutting waste, fraud, and abuse, because that's the claim, right? Oh, we're cutting all the government waste. I mean, look at all these programs that that were wasteful, fraudulent, and abusive, right? No, the reality is they're going after stuff that Musk is ideologically opposed to. Doesn't Just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's fraudulent. Okay, and of course he also is going after stuff that doesn't benefit him, and also after entire agencies that have been investigating him. Okay, and so that's the reality. Now the funny part about all this is how ham-handed it is. Okay, I mean, it's so bad that you had nuclear security technicians that got fired and then rehired because, oops, it turns out we actually need those guys. Oh, shoot. Oh, did we just fire the people that maintained our nuclear arsenal? Oopsie. Oh, we're going to have to fix that. Okay. Not only that, but you've got these huge conflicts of interest, right? For example, he fired the officials at the FDA who were overseeing a brain implant project that Musk runs. That's the Neuralink, right? Which had been killing a lot of monkeys in their research. So, I mean, you want the people to put them chips in their head? They're killing the monkeys. What do you think it's going to do to us? No, I'm putting that damn chip in my head. All right. No way in hell. Okay. Now that said, you would have to have a chip in your head to believe it, Elon Musk, for some reason. But anyway, look, he also claims that, hey, look what we're doing now. We're returning the money to the taxpayers, right? We're saving so much money. Look at what we're saving so much money. Are you? Are you actually returning it to the taxpayers? No. A Trump official told not us that depending on the funds, the money is either repurposed or returned to the Treasury Department. So, all right, what's the money doing? I mean, it's either just not sitting there or just sitting there and just not being used. Okay. So that's where all these savings are going to go. Now, turns out that federal officials who decide to spend less than the congressionally appropriated amount or want to cut spending altogether must provide notice to Congress. Congress, in turn, has 45 days to pass a law allowing the rescission of funds. So they actually have to do their job, Republicans in Congress. If Congress does not pass a law, the funds must be spent as appropriated. Spending on contracts that agencies are obligated to must also be completed. So they can't just go and cancel all these contracts. So, yeah, what they're doing, they're not really even doing anything. Okay? Not to save the country money. Now, here's the other thing, right? And maybe this is a distraction. Maybe this is talk that I'm seeing on X or whatever. But didn't Musk say something about taking some of that DOGE money and getting a refund? No, it turns out he didn't say anything about that, right? But some people have floated the idea. In fact, the Zoria investment firm CEO James Fishback posted on X that the money from the DOGE's savings should be sent back as a DOGE dividend. Oh, he said, American taxpayers deserve a DOGE dividend. 20% of the money that DOGE saved should be sent back to hardworking Americans as a tax refund check. It was their money in the first place. At $2 trillion in DOGE savings, which is never going to happen, by the way, and 78 million tax-paying households, this is a $5,000 refund per household, with the remaining used to pay down the national debt. Elon, let's do this. This is how we rebuild trust in our government. Of course, it's not going to happen. Okay. As I already mentioned, any savings goes back to the Treasury and then has to be spent anyway because it's congressionally appropriated, right? And so, yeah, it's going to end up somewhere else or getting spent on the things that you didn't want to spend it on anyway because it's passed by Congress. But anyway, anything else, by the way, any actual savings that they would actually have. Okay, assuming Congress goes and passes whatever law and goes through the correct process, it's still not going to go back to you. It's probably going to end up paying for gigantic tax cuts for the rich that the Republicans are planning. It's $4.5 trillion in tax cuts. So all this is a gigantic boondoggle, okay, launched in order to distract people, I think, from the fact that they are going to loot the treasury. And more importantly, dismantling parts of our government that might actually hold people like Elon Musk accountable, well, as well as Donald Trump, of course, along with all their super rich corporate friends who just want regulations and regulators to go away. And so that's what this is. It's a non-agency. Again, no accountability here when it comes to DOGE. Very little transparency, okay? And the math just ain't working out. And so it's just nothing more than a gigantic scam being pulled on all of us. On Tuesday, the Trump administration admitted that, oops, we accidentally fired several USDA employees who were working on the H1N5 bird flu outbreak in the United States. The latest data about that from the USDA shows 151 confirmed flocks have been hit. That's about 23 million birds, which of course is causing a massive spike in the price of eggs. Now, the USDA sent a statement that it was working in bringing these several agency employees back, although several positions supporting bird flu efforts were notified of their terminations over the weekend. We are working to swiftly rectify the situation and rescind those letters, said a USDA spokesman in a statement reported by NBC. USDA Food Safety and Inspection Service frontline positions are considered public safety positions, and we are continuing to hire the workforce necessary to ensure the safety and adequate supply of food to fulfill our statutory mission. Okay, then why did the DOGE dummies fire a bunch of them? I mean, it seems like a bit of a whoopsie.
Whoopsie.
Huh. Weird. Now, to show you how widespread H5N1 is, it began spreading in the U.S. in 2022, right? And so far, 148 million birds have been euthanized to prevent additional infections. That has, of course, led to supply chain shortages of eggs, okay? Even restaurants have been putting egg surcharges, okay, on some of their food. So look, there's a major issue here when it comes to this bird flu epidemic, which, by the way, has ended up jumping species. That's right. In March of 2024, the illness was found in dairy cows for the first time. Uh-oh. But it gets worse. As of now, about 70 human cases have been identified, mostly in dairy and poultry workers, one of which actually led to a fatality. Okay, so once again, that's a real problem. That is not good. Not good. And yet, here we have the DOGE purging away, getting rid of thousands of government employees, gutting these agencies that are tasked to protect people from stuff like this, as well as, of course, the people who maintain our nuclear arsenal. Yes, that's right. 300 employees at the National Nuclear Safety Administration, NSA, were fired last week because the person in charge had no idea what they actually did. That's right. A source told CNN that they believe that the individuals were fired because, quote, no one has taken any time to understand what we do and the importance of our work to the nation's national security. Another source said Congress is freaking out because it appears DOE, Department of Energy, didn't really realize NSA oversees the nuclear stockpile. Once again, it goes back to like Rick Perry, okay, who, when he was running for president, forever ago, it was 2016, where he was like, gosh, I didn't know. I think it was after that where he was put as the secretary at the Department of Energy. And so he's like, gosh, I didn't realize that we actually did nuclear here. I thought it was just all about oil and gas. Dummy. Just putting the dumbest people, the most unintelligent people in charge of this country. My God. But anyway, once they figured it out, yeah, you had figured out that they were actually necessary. I mean, that same source said the nuclear deterrent is the backbone of American security and stability. Period. For there to be even any even very small holes poked, even in the maintenance of that deterrent, should be extremely frightening to people. Absolutely, it should be. It should be, and not enough people are aware of all this stuff because they're not aware of the things that the government actually does. Okay. But once again, once the Trump administration figured out, oh crap, we need these people, they attempted to rehire them. Problem is, some of them were unable to be reached. All but around 25 NNSA staffers have been since reinstated. 2 current NNSA employees with knowledge of the matter told CNN. It is unclear how many will return to work Tuesday. Oh boy. According to an NNSA employee familiar with the firing, speaking to CNN, they said that the agency's human resources department was not even involved in the firings. Really? Quote, that's not normal. It was ridiculous, unprecedented, and sloppy. There's no formal process. So, yeah, that's what's going on in our government right now. Ridiculous, unprecedented, and sloppy. Oh boy. Not only is this dangerous, okay, with real implications for and consequences for this country's health as well as our national security, but it's also super embarrassing. And who runs a government like this? Oh, right. Donald Trump and Republicans, of course. Now, in addition to all those whoopsie firings, there's also a lot of firings that are just weakening us as a country, and those will not be rescinded. For example, regulators at the Center for Veterinary Medicine, who ensure that drugs for pets and livestock are safe and effective, gone. Gone. The center's work has an impact on many different animals, including household pets, dogs, cats, hamsters, whatever, but it's also responsible for making sure that the food from animals, yes, the food that we eat, being treated with medications like antibiotics and hormones, is safe to eat, including dairy cows, egg-laying hens, and other livestock. Oh boy. One staffer who received their termination letter over the weekend said the majority of their work had involved regularly reviewing reports on drugs that are on the market to make sure that the manufacturers were following quality standards and preventing contamination, among other things. The losses will deplete staffing in an already backlogged area of FDA, meaning those workers that are left could be forced to rush through their work in order to meet their deadlines, one current FDA staffer told NPR. Oh no, not good. Not good at all. In fact, the person told NPR, quote, the safety of these drugs impacts anyone who eats animal products, who eats meat or milk or eggs. And at the same time, you got these people that are drinking raw milk, okay, on the right wing. Oh no. This is bad. I mean, all of these firings, a lot of these firings, okay, all it's doing is setting us up for future catastrophe. I mean, look, Donald Trump hasn't, been in office for a month yet. Okay, we've already had a whole bunch of disastrous plane crashes. And now Trump's firing more FAA people. Okay, the flight controllers. Oh my God. So this is not good at all. Look, at the end of the day, regulators are just the cops on the beat, right? That's it. They're just there to enforce the rules. Rules that generally are there to protect us. But thanks to Republicans, they've been demonized, villainized, and finally defunded and fired. Thanks to Trump. And now all this stuff is going to get way, way worse. So buckle up and brace for impact. The rhetoric surrounding Donald Trump's deportations has led to a 11-year-old girl taking her own life. Jocelyn Rojo Carranza was a sixth grade student at Gainesville Intermediate School, Texas. Her mother, Marbella Carranza, told Univision that her daughter was dealing with bullying from her classmates who had taunted her for being Latina and had even threatened to call ICE on her family. Now, currently, thanks to Donald Trump, he signed executive orders allowing ICE to literally go into the schools. Okay. So now they told her that she would be all alone in the US once they call ICE and have her family deported. So, oh yeah, no, you're gonna be alone. They're gonna come take your mom, and your dad, and your fam. They're gonna come get you. They're gonna come get you. The harassment had apparently become so bad that this child, okay, 11 years old, child, was seeing a school counselor more than once a week. Okay. So, wait, why didn't anybody get involved? I mean, did the school get involved? Did she tell the teachers? What? Did she reach out? Apparently she did. She had informed school officials on multiple occasions that, hey, I'm being bullied, right? And this is really having a gigantic negative effect on my mental health, okay? But since it is Texas, her mother says that the school took absolutely no action whatsoever. Quote, I waited a whole week for a miracle that my daughter would be well, but unfortunately nothing could be done. My daughter will always live for me, and I will always love her. So she had died on February 8th after being rushed to the hospital a week earlier. So look, this right here is just one of the few unfortunate stories. I should say one of the many unfortunate stories that I'm sure are going to come out as a result of the right wing's assault on immigrants. They're not just talking about criminal alien migrants or whatever, right? Whatever the right wing phrase is. No, they're going after just anyone who isn't white, anyone who's an immigrant. Why is that? Oh, I think we know why that is.
The Republican Party's racist.
But anyway, Trump had talked about how immigrants are poisoning the blood of this country. They're the enemy within. Okay. So when you hear that rhetoric, I mean, if you're the victim of that, that's going to have negative impacts. But even if you're not the victim, right? Even in this case, if you're the kids, because I don't blame the children specifically. Okay. What I do blame is the culture. I do blame the parents. I blame the social media. Okay. Because understand that these kids are probably just parroting things that they've been seeing online or in person with their families. Hell, they're parroting the president, which I don't know. I remember a time where, you were supposed to look up to the president and use them as an example. Okay. Hey, one of these days, if you study hard, maybe you could become president one day. President of the United States. Wow, look at that. But nowadays, no. If you're extremely racist and cruel and are just a terrible person, a con man, criminal, what have you, then maybe someday you could become the president too. I mean, that's how far we have fallen as a country. Okay. But anyway, look, nobody's born racist, right? But you are taught that. And that's the problem. These children were taught this, and it's having negative impacts. And it's not the only incident, of course. In fact, I remember talking about how just the day after the election, you had these racist texts being sent out. LaToya Buford's 16-year-old daughter. Once again, we're talking about kids, right? We're talking about teenagers in this case. But she got a text saying that she had been, quote, selected to pick cotton at the nearest plantation. The daughter told her mom that some of her friends had also gotten that message, but only those who, like her, were black. Okay? Those are the ones who got the message. Somehow they knew and were sending out these text messages. Buford's daughter was one of the middle school, high school, and college students. More than 20 states who received similar racist texts in the days following Trump's reelection. And in the week since, it had gotten worse, with then Latino and LGBTQ plus recipients getting messages threatening them with deportation or being sent to so-called re-education camps, according to the FBI. Some of these messages purported to be from the Trump administration, though the Trump campaign said, "Oh, I got no." At the time, well, we had nothing to do with these messages, right? No, maybe you didn't, but certainly your supporters had a lot to do with it. It's not the only ones, that have left messages. There's, for example, people that left racist notes in a Wyoming high school bathroom. You also had anti-immigrant and other discriminatory incidents in a Vermont school district. So there is definitely a problem here. Okay. Hate speech against adults is bad enough. But when you're involving children, when they're being victimized, it's so, so much worse. This is a child whose brain and sense of self are still developing. And the pain of enduring hate speech for children can, develop into physical symptoms, stomach aches, headaches, panic attacks, insomnia, and then, of course, in the most extreme examples, taking your own life. I mean, this is horrible. Harassment, by the way, can also deprive young people of their legal right to an education, making them too afraid to stay in class or even to come to school at all. Okay? This is according to Aaron McGuire, Director of Equity and Inclusion for Vermont's Essex Westford School District, which experienced a steep increase in harassment reports the week of Trump's reelection. So now the question, of course, is what's the Trump administration doing about this? Weren't they supposed to try to protect the children? I thought they didn't have a problem with the legal immigrants. Now, it turns out they do. And so they're doing nothing. Actually, no, they're doing worse than nothing. In fact, on Tuesday, the White House posted a video of migrants being shackled and boarded onto a plane bound for who knows where, and accompanying the video with the words ASMR, illegal alien deportation flight. Now, if watching that gives you a sense of pleasure, I think you are a sick person. You are a depraved person. Okay. If you think 11-year-olds unaliving themselves because of racist harassment is fine, then you are absolutely a disgusting, terrible human being. The nation of Brazil is showing the world how to deal with coup plotters. Government under Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has charged the former Brazilian president, Jair Bolsonaro, with 5 counts related to his plot to overthrow the government following his loss in the 2022 election. Now, the charges include a plot to assassinate da Silva and Brazilian Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes and attempting a coup. Prosecutor General Paulo Gonet is leading that charge against Bolsonaro and 33 other coup plotters. They will face trial. The charges are accepted by the Supreme Court and could face up to 28 years in prison if found guilty. Gonet accused the former president of being at the head of a quote-unquote criminal organization. He also has been accused by the federal police of attempting to violently dismantle the constitutional state after a violent insurrection by Bolsonaro supporters that was inspired by the January 6th insurrection in the United States that now the Trump administration is trying to sweep under the rug as if it never happened. Of course. Now, after Bolsonaro's defeat and da Silva's swearing in, a large group of Bolsonaro supporters had stormed the Capitol building in Brasilia, but were quickly overcome by security forces and arrested. After that, Bolsonaro was like, "Oh, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm completely innocent. And actually, you know what this is? This is a witch hunt. That's what it is. A political prosecution. That's right. It's a corruption. Oh, it's so corrupt. Look at that." Now, remember, this is after Bolsonaro had illegally imprisoned da Silva. So this goes back quite a ways. Okay. No. What happened here is Bolsonaro tried to take over the government after losing his election. And so what happened? He lost again. He lost again. Unlike in the United States, however, where the Electoral College and a slim majority of Americans decided, why don't we elect a criminal again? Great. Which, of course, after he was elected and sworn in, he immediately pardoned all the January 6ers, including those who were previously charged with sex crimes, some involving children, by the way, along with violent ones who assaulted Capitol Police. Okay? Not only that, but he started going after his political enemies and had signed a whole bunch of illegal executive orders. Okay? So that's what's going on here. Okay? In the United States. Worked out pretty well for Donald Trump, but not so much for Bolsonaro in Brazil. Now, Brazil, of course, is the only country that has pushed back on attempts to destroy their democracy. You have South Korea. Back in December, who had impeached their president, Yoon Suk Yeol, after he attempted to enact martial law. So, yeah, they stopped that one. There were massive protests, and the assembly impeached him. Then they impeached the next guy, the Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, 10 days later. Okay, oops. Now Yoon is currently on trial. There's a separate criminal charge against him, by the way, for leading an insurrection, and he was arrested last month, currently being held in detention. Insurrection is one of the few criminal charges from which a South Korean president does not have immunity. But in the United States, of course, thanks to the Supreme Court, the president can do almost anything he wants. Full immunity. So, and by the way, the Supreme Court, 3 of the members that decided that owe their entire appointment to Donald Trump. So, is there any wonder why the Roberts Court is sitting back and allowing Donald Trump to destroy our democratic institutions? Along with allowing a billionaire who was unelected that gave $277 million to Trump's campaign to go and do God knows what, whatever he wants, essentially. Okay, and why Congress is just sitting back, because Congress is being controlled by Republicans, and Republicans are like, no, guys, you go ahead and do whatever the hell you want. We live in a dictatorship now, so, Donald Trump, King Donald, God King Donald, you could do whatever the hell you want. We're not going to get in your way. That's what's going on here. Look, we could have done what Brazil did, right? We could be doing what South Korea tried to do. But because we have money in politics and we have so many corrupt Republicans and weak Democrats, that no, we're not able to do that. And because we have a bought media, okay? We have corporations that are in control of the media narrative, including, of course, X, which is, under the control of Elon Musk. Because of all that stuff, we as a nation ended up putting a convicted criminal back into the highest office in the land. And if you think that that's not going to lead to us being robbed by a criminal who is now in that office, I got news for you. It's not going to work out well for any of us. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.